There was a time when every slight wounded me. When fortune turned against me, I raged. When others spoke ill of me, I could not sleep. I want to tell you this because you need to know I am not speaking to you as someone who was born wise. I speak as someone who fought for every inch of inner peace I now possess. What I discovered transformed everything. The events that tormented me did not change. I changed. My exile became my liberation. My losses became my teachers, and I learned that the mind can become a fortress no circumstance can storm. What I am about to share with you saved my life. It can save yours too. Listen to me carefully. Right now, you are carrying burdens that do not belong to you. That conversation from last week still disturbs your sleep. That disappointment from last month still clouds every morning. That person who wronged you last year still occupies space in your mind without paying rent. You believe this is normal. You believe this is simply how life works. Events happen, and you react. But here is what I need you to understand. You are suffering unnecessarily. Not because life is not difficult. It is. Not because painful things do not happen. They do. You suffer unnecessarily because you have never learned the difference between what happens and what you make it mean. You have confused the event with your interpretation of the event, and this confusion has cost you your peace. I know what you are facing. The betrayal that shook your foundation, the loss that seems impossible to bear, the daily frustrations that accumulate like stones in your chest, the future you fear, the past you cannot release, and underneath it all, the exhausting sense that you are at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control. But what if I told you that the very thing causing your greatest suffering also contains your liberation? In our time together, you will learn something that took me years of observation, trial, and error to understand. How to separate the event from your judgment of the event. How to witness life without being destroyed by it. How to respond from reason rather than react from passion. How to build a mind so well fortified that no circumstance can storm it. This is not about denying reality. It is not about pretending pain does not hurt. It is about understanding where your true power lies, not in controlling what happens, but in governing how you respond. This is the difference between being storm-tossed and being anchored, between being enslaved by every wind and being free even in chains. By the end of our time together, you will know exactly how to practice this daily. You will have the tools to transform your relationship with every difficult circumstance you face. Most importantly, you will understand that you have always had the power. You simply did not know you had it. Let me tell you about a shipwreck I witnessed. Two merchants were on the same vessel. Both had invested everything they owned in the cargo. Everything. Their entire fortunes sat in that ship's hold. Then the storm came. Not a gentle rain, but the kind of tempest that tears masts from their moorings and splits hulls like kindling. The ship went down. Both men made it to shore, soaked, exhausted, alive, but everything else was gone. The cargo, the investment, years of work, all of it now resting at the bottom of the sea. I happened to be on that shore, and I watched these two men, both having experienced the identical loss, respond in completely different ways. The first man collapsed on the sand and wept. He tore at his clothes. He cursed the gods, cursed the sea, cursed his decision to set sail that day. He spoke of ending his life. How could he go on? Everything was lost. He was ruined. His family would starve. The world had turned against him. He had nothing left. For days, I watched him remain in this state, paralyzed by grief, unable to move forward, replaying the loss over and over in his mind. The second man sat on the shore for a long time, quiet, looking out at the water. Then he stood up, brushed the sand from his clothes, and began walking toward the nearest town. I approached him and asked, "Have you not lost everything?" He looked at me with clear eyes and said something I have never forgotten. He said, "I have lost cargo, but I still possess the ability to begin again. What I have lost was never truly mine. It belonged to fortune, and fortune has taken it back. What I retain cannot be taken from me. My skills, my experience, my ability to work, my reason, these remain. I am not ruined. I am tested. Do you see what happened here?" The event was identical. The storm was the same storm. The ship was the same ship. The cargo lost was equal in value, but one man was destroyed, and one man remained whole. The difference was not in what happened. It was in how each man interpreted what happened. One saw total loss, the end of everything, a reason to give up on life itself. The other saw a test of character, a challenge, an opportunity to prove that his worth was not tied to his possessions. Same event, two completely different responses. One man lost his cargo and his peace. The other man lost only his cargo. This is what I need you to understand. The event itself is not what harms you. Your judgment of the event is what creates your suffering. When you can separate these two things, when you can see clearly that the circumstance is one thing and your interpretation is another, you begin to reclaim your power. You begin to realize that while you cannot control the storms, you can control whether they destroy you. Now let me tell you about another man. His name was Cato, Cato the Younger. If there was ever a man who embodied virtue, it was him, dignified, principled, incorruptible. One day, Cato was walking through the Forum in Rome. Many people were there, going about their business, conducting commerce, engaging in conversation, and there was a man in the Forum who hated Cato. I do not remember why. Perhaps Cato had ruled against him in some matter. Perhaps he envied Cato's reputation. Perhaps he was simply the kind of person who seeks to tear down what he cannot become. The reason does not matter. This man saw Cato approaching, and in front of everyone, in front of the entire crowd, he walked up to Cato and spat directly in his face. Can you imagine? The insult, the humiliation, the disrespect. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The entire forum went silent. All eyes were on Cato. What would he do? Would he strike the man? Would he call for his arrest? Would he rage and shout? Everyone waited. And Cato did something that no one expected. He calmly wiped his face. He looked at the man, and he said, "I will tell anyone who asks that you have no sense of shame." Then he continued walking as if nothing had happened. The crowd was stunned. His enemy was defeated more thoroughly than if Cato had beaten him, because Cato had done something more powerful than retaliation. He had shown that the insult had no power over him. Do you understand what happened? The man had tried to take Cato's dignity. He had tried to humiliate him, to disturb his peace, to make him lose control. But Cato refused to give away his power. If Cato had responded with anger, if he had shouted or struck back, he would have proven that the man had succeeded in disturbing him. He would have given his enemy exactly what he wanted, control over his emotional state. Instead, Cato remained master of himself. The insult landed on his face but could not touch his character. His tranquility remained intact. Now I can imagine what you are thinking. You are thinking, "But I am not Cato. I am not a philosopher. I am not yet wise. I get angry when people wrong me. I lose sleep when things go badly. I am just an ordinary person with ordinary struggles. What can I possibly do?" And I understand. I have thought the same thing, which is why I need to tell you what happened to me. Because if I can learn this, If someone like me can develop this capacity, then so can you. Let me tell you what happened when I was exiled from Rome. I was stripped of everything: my position, my influence, my wealth, my place in society, everything I had worked for, everything I had built, taken away in a moment. And I was sent to Corsica. Have you heard of Corsica? It is a barren rock in the middle of the sea. No culture, no libraries, no stimulation, just emptiness and isolation. I was 40 years old, and my life, as I knew it, was over. The first weeks were the worst I have ever experienced. I woke up every morning filled with rage. How could this have happened to me? What had I done to deserve this? Every memory of Rome was torture. Every thought of what I had lost felt like a fresh wound opening. I could not eat. I could not focus. I could not write. All I could do was replay my circumstances over and over, feeling the injustice of it, feeling the loss of it, feeling sorry for myself. I was a prisoner, but the chains were not on my body. They were in my mind. I had made myself a slave to my own thoughts about what had happened. Then one morning, I was sitting on the cliffs overlooking the sea. The sun was rising. The water was calm, and something shifted inside me. I asked myself a question. I said, "What exactly have I lost?" Position? That was just opinion. Other people deciding I was important, but was I actually less of a person now? No, I was the same person. Wealth? That was temporary. Money comes and goes. It never really belonged to me. It belonged to fortune, and fortune took it back. Respect? That was granted by others. Their perception of me. But did their perception change who I actually was? No. What remained? And this is when everything changed. What remained was my ability to think, my capacity for virtue, my power to choose my response, my character. These things no one could take from me. No emperor, no decree, no circumstance. They were mine, truly mine, and they remained intact. In that moment, I began to practice what I had only taught in theory. I realized that exile had not taken my freedom. My reactions had, my constant replaying of what I had lost, my anger at my circumstances, my refusal to accept what had happened. These were the real prison, and I held the key. So I began to change. I started to study the island instead of curse it. I observed the plants, the birds, the rhythms of the sea. I began to write again, not about my suffering, but about philosophy, about virtue, about how to live well, regardless of circumstances. I started to train my mind the way an athlete trains the body. Every time I felt anger rising about my exile, I would pause and ask, "Is this anger helping me? Is this thought serving my peace?" And slowly, day by day, I discovered something that would change everything for me. Tranquility does not require favorable circumstances. It requires a well-governed mind. Exile became my teacher. Misfortune became my liberation. Because I learned that I could be free anywhere, under any conditions, as long as I remained master of my own mind. This is why I can tell you with complete certainty, with no doubt whatsoever, that you can be free in any circumstance. I speak not as someone who has never suffered. I speak as someone who learned to suffer well, as someone who discovered that the event is nothing and the response is everything. So now you understand. You have seen the two merchants and the shipwreck. You have seen Cato and the insult. You have heard my story of exile. And the lesson in all of these is the same. It is never what happens, it is always how you respond. But now you need to understand why this is true. You need to understand the principle beneath the examples. So let me explain this to you as clearly as I can. Here is what you must engrave into your mind. No external event is inherently good or bad. The event simply is. Your judgment makes it good or bad. Let me give you a simple example. When it rains, what happens? The farmer rejoices. His crops need water. Rain means food, means survival, means prosperity. On the same day, the traveler complains. Rain means delay, means discomfort, means his journey is harder. Same rain. Different judgments. The rain itself is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It simply falls. One person calls it a blessing. Another calls it a curse. Who is right? Neither. Both. The rain is just rain. Or think about this. You call something bad luck. Your plans fall through. You miss an opportunity. You lose something you valued. But who is to say, this is bad? Perhaps this misfortune is redirecting you toward something better. Perhaps what you lost was about to harm you. Perhaps the closed door is protecting you from a path that would have led to greater suffering. You do not know. You cannot see the future. All you can see is that your desire was thwarted, and you call this bad. But is it? Or is it simply different from what you expected? Here is the deeper truth. Most of your suffering comes from resisting what is. You suffer not from loss itself, but from your belief that you should not have lost. You suffer not from pain, but from your conviction that you should not be in pain. You suffer not from disappointment, but from your demand that life should have gone differently. Reality is neutral. Your resistance to reality creates suffering. The event cannot harm you. Your judgment that the event should not have happened, this is what harms you. Every time something happens that disturbs you, pause and ask yourself this question. Is this event tormenting me, or is my judgment of this event tormenting me? And you will discover, almost always, it is the latter. The event is just an event. A person said words. A thing was lost. A plan changed. These are just facts. Neutral facts. But then you add interpretation. You say, this should not have happened. This is terrible. This ruins everything. I cannot bear this. And now you suffer. Not from the event, but from what you are telling yourself about the event. This is where your power lies. You cannot control the rain, but you can control whether you judge it as good or bad. You cannot control whether someone insults you, but you can control whether you interpret that insult as harmful. You cannot control whether you lose your possessions, but you can control whether you see that loss as the end of everything or as a test of your character. The event is beyond your control. Your interpretation is entirely within your control, and your suffering or your peace depends not on the event, but on your interpretation. Now let me explain something else that is important. You are made of two parts, the body and the mind, and you must understand the difference between these two parts if you are to remain free. The body will feel things. This is natural. This is part of being human. When you are struck, the body experiences pain. When you are insulted, the body may flush with heat. Your face may redden. When you are threatened, your heart may race. Your hands may tremble. These are involuntary reactions. They belong to our animal nature. We share them with every creature that has nerves and blood. The wise person does not deny these bodily reactions. I do not tell you to become a stone, unfeeling, numb to everything. That is not wisdom, that is death while living. No, what I tell you is this: these bodily sensations do not have to disturb the ruling mind. The critical distinction is between feeling and being ruled by feeling. You will feel fear. The body will produce fear when danger is present. This is natural. But you need not be ruled by fear. You can feel the sensation of fear and still act with courage. You will experience disappointment. The body will react when hopes are dashed. But you need not be destroyed by disappointment. You can feel the sensation and still move forward with purpose. Think of it this way: the body may tremble, let it tremble, but the mind that governs the body can remain steady. When I was in exile, my body felt all the discomforts: hunger, cold, loneliness. These sensations were real. I did not deny them, but I did not allow them to disturb my mind's tranquility. The body suffered its small sufferings. The mind remained at peace. This is not suppression. This is sovereignty. This is understanding that you are not your body. You are the consciousness that inhabits the body. And while you cannot always control what the body feels, you can always control how the mind responds. Here is how you practice this. When emotion arises, when you feel anger or fear or sadness, do not fight it. Do not try to push it away. Instead, observe it. Say to yourself, I notice anger is present. I notice fear is here. I notice sadness has arrived. You are not the emotion. You are the one who is aware of the emotion. This creates space between you and the feeling. In that space, you have choice. You can say, I feel angry, and therefore I will act with virtue. I feel afraid, and therefore I will act with courage. I feel sad, and therefore I will act with dignity. The feeling does not command you. You command yourself, even in the presence of the feeling. This is what I mean when I say the body may react, but the mind can remain free. Over time, with practice, you will find that even the bodily reactions become less intense, because the body learns from the mind. When the mind stops interpreting every difficulty as a catastrophe, the body stops responding as if catastrophe has occurred. But you must start by making the distinction. I am not my feelings. I am the one who experiences my feelings, and I can choose how I respond regardless of what I feel. Now, I want to teach you something that will protect you from most of the suffering you will face in your life. We are tormented most by things we did not expect. The shock of the unexpected is often worse than the thing itself. Therefore, if you wish to remain undisturbed, you must expect everything. Every morning, before you begin your day, before you check your messages, before you engage with the world, sit quietly for a few moments and rehearse in your mind everything that could go wrong. I know this sounds dark. I know you have been taught to think positively, to hope for the best. But I am teaching you something different. I am teaching you to prepare for reality. So each morning, say to yourself, today I could face betrayal. Today I could receive devastating news. Today I could be insulted, disappointed, rejected. The meeting I have planned could go poorly. The project I am working on could fail. Someone I love could be angry with me. Something I value could be taken. I could become ill. I could lose money. I could be treated unfairly. Any of these things could happen today. And then say this, and if they happen, I will not be destroyed. I will respond with virtue. I will remain master of myself. Why does this work? Because when these things do happen, and they will happen, you will not be caught unprepared. Your mind will say, "Ah, yes. This is one of the possibilities I considered this morning." The shock is removed. The sense of catastrophe is softened. You face the event from a position of readiness rather than surprise. Most people live in a fantasy. They believe today will be smooth. They believe everyone will treat them well. They believe their plans will unfold exactly as they imagine. And then, when reality intrudes, when difficulty arrives, they are devastated. Not because the difficulty is unbearable, but because they never prepared themselves for it. But you, if you practice this morning preparation, you will be different. You will expect difficulty. And here is the paradox. By expecting the worst, you rob misfortune of its power to overwhelm you. You remain steady. And because you are not destroyed by difficulty, you are able to respond with wisdom rather than panic. The person who expects only good fortune falls apart when bad fortune arrives. The person who expects both good and bad fortune remains upright through either one. And then, at night, before you sleep, you must examine your day. This is just as important as the morning preparation. Ask yourself, how did I do today? Did I respond well to difficulty? Where did I maintain my composure? Where did I lose it? What could I do better tomorrow? This is not about punishing yourself. This is not about guilt. This is about training. Just as an athlete reviews their performance to improve, you review your responses to improve your character. Each day, you are practicing. Some days, you will do well. Some days, you will fail. But every day, you are learning. Every day, you are becoming slightly more skilled at governing your reactions. Over time, you will notice something remarkable. The things that once destroyed your peace no longer touch you. The insult that would have ruined your entire week now barely registers. The disappointment that would have sent you into despair now causes only a moment of adjustment before you continue forward. You have become strong through practice, not because you have eliminated feeling, but because you have learned to feel without being ruled by feeling. Now let me explain to you the most important formula you will ever learn. Between every event and your response, there is a space. In that space lies a choice. And in that choice resides all your power. Most people do not understand this. They believe events cause responses. Something happens, and automatically they react. Someone insults them, and automatically they feel wounded and attack back. Fortune turns against them, and automatically they collapse into despair. No pause, no choice. Just stimulus and immediate reaction, like an animal that cannot think, like a machine that has no will. But human beings are different. We have reason. We have the capacity to pause between stimulus and response. We can insert awareness into that gap. Let me show you how this works. Something happens. This is the stimulus. It is external. It is beyond your control. Someone criticizes you. A plan fails. You lose something. This is just a fact, an event in the world. Then there is a moment. A space, however brief. In that space, before you respond, you have the power of awareness. You can observe your own mind beginning to react. You can see the anger starting to rise, the fear beginning to take hold, the disappointment spreading through your thoughts. And in that moment of awareness, you can ask, what would virtue do here? What would my best self do? What response would leave me at peace tonight? And then you choose. You choose your response deliberately, consciously, from reason rather than from passion. This is what separates the wise from the foolish. The fool skips the pause. Stimulus triggers immediate reaction. No space, no choice, no freedom, just mechanical behavior. But the person who is learning wisdom extends the pause. They make the space wider. They ask the question, they consider, and then they respond from their highest self, not from their immediate emotion. Let me give you a real example. You are in a meeting. A colleague criticizes your work in front of everyone. The stimulus has occurred. Your body immediately reacts. Heat in your face, tension in your chest. The impulse to defend yourself, to attack back, to prove them wrong. This is the natural bodily reaction. But now you pause. You do not speak immediately. You breathe. You observe what is happening inside you. You say to yourself, I notice anger arising. I notice the impulse to strike back. And then you ask, is there truth in this criticism? Is my ego simply wounded? What response serves my character? And then you choose. Perhaps you say, thank you for that feedback. Let me reflect on it and we can discuss it further. Or perhaps you say, I see your concern and I would be happy to explain my reasoning. Whatever you say, it comes from choice, not from reaction. You have remained sovereign. The event occurred. Your body reacted, but your mind stayed in control. You responded with dignity rather than reacting with emotion. This is the liberation I am offering you. When you realize you always have this choice, everything changes. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are no longer at the mercy of other people's behavior. You are an agent with power. The world can do what it will. People can say what they say. Events can unfold as they unfold. But you remain free to choose your response, and that freedom cannot be taken from you unless you give it away. Now I must teach you the final and most important principle. Everything external can be taken from you. Your health can fail. Your wealth can vanish. Your reputation can be destroyed. The people you love can die or leave you. Your position in life can be stripped away. Everything you possess, everything you depend on, everything that is not your own character, all of it is subject to fortune. All of it can be lost. But there is one thing that cannot be taken from you unless you abandon it yourself. Your virtue, your integrity, your courage, your wisdom, your self-command. These belong to you alone. Can anyone force you to be a coward? No. Only you can choose cowardice. Can anyone make you act with cruelty? No. Only you can choose cruelty. Can anyone make you dishonest? No. Only you can choose dishonesty. Your virtue is the one possession that fortune cannot touch. Therefore, it is the only thing worth protecting absolutely. It is the only thing you should guard with your life. Everything else, let it come and go. But your character, this you defend without compromise. Once you understand this, external loss loses its power over you. Someone says, they took my money. And you can say, they cannot take your character. Someone says, they ruined my reputation. And you can say, they cannot ruin your actual virtue, only others' opinions about you. Someone says, they caused me great pain. And you can say, they cannot cause you to respond without dignity. The event may harm your body or your circumstances, but it cannot harm you, your true self, your character, unless you permit it to. This is why virtue is the only good, because it is the only thing that is truly yours. It is the only thing that makes you who you are. It is the only thing you take with you everywhere, through every circumstance, into every situation. When virtue is your treasure, you become unbreakable. Nothing can truly harm you because nothing can take what matters most. You can lose everything and remain whole. You can be stripped of all possessions and still be rich. You can be in chains and be more free than the person who holds the key. Because freedom is not about external circumstances. Freedom is about the state of your soul, and your soul remains free as long as your virtue remains intact. So now you know the principles. You understand that events are neutral, and your judgments create your suffering. You know that you are body and mind, and the mind can remain free even when the body feels. You know that expecting difficulty prepares you for difficulty. You know that between stimulus and response lies choice. You know that virtue is the only possession worth protecting absolutely, but knowledge without practice is useless. So now I must tell you exactly how to practice these principles in your daily life. Every morning, before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you engage with the world, sit quietly for 5 minutes and speak these words to yourself. You can say them out loud or silently, but speak them with conviction. Today, I will encounter difficulty. I may face ingratitude, betrayal, insult, disappointment. People may lie to me, hurt me, fail me. Circumstances may not bend to my will. This is the nature of life among human beings. This is reality. But none of these things can harm my character unless I permit them to. I remain free to choose my response. I remain sovereign over my own mind. Today, whatever happens, I will practice virtue. I will respond with wisdom. I will not give away my peace. Why does this work? Because you are not hoping for an easy day. You are preparing for a difficult one. You are setting your mind in the right position from the very start. When trouble comes, and it will come, you will be ready. Your mind is fortified. Nothing catches you off guard. You said this morning that difficulty might come, and now it has come, and you are prepared. This 5-minute morning ritual will do more for your peace than hours of trying to relax after you have already been disturbed. Prevention is easier than cure. Prepare in the morning, and you will suffer less throughout the day. Then, every evening, before you sleep, review your entire day. Ask yourself these questions. When did I respond well to difficulty today? What did I do right? Where did I maintain my composure? Acknowledge your successes. Do not skip this. You must recognize when you practiced virtue. It reinforces the behavior. Then ask, when did I lose composure? Where did I react instead of respond? What external event disturbed my peace? And the most important question, why did I grant it that power? What was I telling myself about that event that allowed it to disturb me? And finally, if I faced the same situation tomorrow, how would I respond with more wisdom? This evening examination is not about guilt. It is not about beating yourself up for your failures. It is about learning. Every day is training. Some days you do well, some days you do poorly, but every day you examine, you learn, you adjust, you improve. Over weeks and months, you will notice the progress. The situations that once destroyed you now barely affect you. You are becoming stronger, not by accident, but by deliberate daily practice. Now, when you are in the middle of your day and something happens that triggers strong emotion, use this technique. Stop. Do not speak. Do not act immediately. Just breathe. Take 3 slow breaths. This gives you the pause you need. Then name what you are feeling. Say to yourself, I notice anger arising. I notice fear present. I notice disappointment here. You are not saying, I am angry. You are saying, I notice anger. This creates distance between you and the emotion. You are the observer, not the emotion itself. Then, question it. Ask, is this event actually harmful, or is my judgment making it harmful? Will this matter in a year? Is my character actually threatened, or just my ego? What am I telling myself about this that is creating my suffering? And then choose. Ask, what response would leave me at peace tonight? What would virtue do in this situation? What would my wisest self do? And then act from that place. Respond deliberately from reason, not reactively from passion. This takes practice. At first, you will forget. The emotion will overwhelm you, and you will react before you remember to pause. That is normal. But keep practicing. Every time you remember to pause, even if it is after you have already reacted, you are strengthening the habit. Eventually, the pause will become automatic. You will find that space between stimulus and response growing wider and wider, and in that space, you will find your freedom. Let me give you one more practice, and this one may seem strange, but trust me, once per week, practice voluntary discomfort. Choose to experience something unpleasant on purpose. Skip a meal and feel hunger. Take a cold shower and feel the cold. Sleep on the floor for one night. Give up something you enjoy for a day. Sit in silence with no entertainment. Choose some form of discomfort and embrace it willingly. Why would you do this? Because you are training yourself to be unfazed by involuntary discomfort. If you can willingly endure discomfort, then when unwilling discomfort comes, you are not destroyed by it. You have already proven to yourself that you can endure. The person who has never faced difficulty cannot know their own strength. The person who always chooses comfort becomes weak. When hardship arrives, they have no capacity to bear it. But you, if you practice voluntary hardship, you become strong. When cold comes, you know you can endure cold. When hunger comes, you know you can endure hunger. When disappointment comes, you know you can endure disappointment. You have practiced. Nothing can shock you. Nothing can break you. You know your own strength because you have tested it deliberately. So here we are. You have heard everything I have to teach you today. You know now what I have learned through years of observation, through exile, through loss, through triumph. It is never what happens. It is always how you respond. The world will continue to be difficult. People will disappoint you. Fortune will turn against you. Loss will come. Pain will visit you. This is not pessimism. This is reality. But you now possess something most people never discover. You know where your power actually resides. Not in controlling circumstances. You cannot control circumstances. Not in demanding the world be gentle. It will not be gentle. But in governing your own mind. In choosing your own response. In protecting your virtue above all else. This is the life of the person who cannot be conquered. The one who stands while others fall. The one who remains tranquil while chaos rages around them. Not because they are unfeeling, not because they do not care, but because they have learned to feel without being enslaved by feeling. They have learned to care without being destroyed by loss. They have learned to interpret reality through the lens of wisdom rather than through the lens of fear. Will you be tested? Yes, every day. Will you face hardship? Absolutely. Will you sometimes fall short of this ideal? Of course. Even I do. There are days when I respond poorly. When I lose my composure, when I forget my own teachings. But each day I practice. I become a little stronger. Each time I pause before reacting, I reclaim a little more of my power. Each moment I choose virtue over comfort, I become a little more free, and the same will be true for you. Remember this above everything else. No one can take your freedom unless you give it away. And you give it away every time you allow an external event to disturb your inner peace. Stop giving it away. The insult cannot harm you unless you interpret it as harmful. The loss cannot destroy you unless you believe you cannot survive without what you lost. The disappointment cannot ruin your day unless you tell yourself, this should not have happened. The event is just an event. Your response is where your power lives. Your only task now is to practice. Tomorrow morning, begin with the 5-minute ritual I gave you. Prepare your mind for difficulty. Tonight, before you sleep, examine today. Look back on how you responded to the challenges you faced. When the next difficulty comes, and it will come soon, pause before responding. Create that space. Choose your response deliberately. Practice once per week with voluntary discomfort. Do these things consistently, and I promise you, your life will change. Not because your circumstances will improve. They may or they may not, but because you will improve. You will become the kind of person whom circumstances cannot disturb. You will become the kind of person who is free in any condition. If this teaching has resonated with you, if you can feel the truth of it somewhere deep in your chest, I ask you to do something for me. Subscribe to receive more of these teachings. I have much more to share with you about how to live well, how to face death without fear, how to treat others with dignity, how to find meaning in a difficult world. Like this teaching, if it has given you something of value, that simple act tells me that this wisdom is reaching the people who need it. And in the comments below, tell me this. What is the one circumstance that most often steals your peace? What is the recurring difficulty you face? Share it. Because we learn from each other. Your struggle may be someone else's struggle. Your insight may help another person find their way. We are all walking this path together. I will leave you with this. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are at the mercy of your judgments about the world. Change your judgments, and you change your life. It has always been within your power. You just did not know it. Now you know. Now go. Practice. Become unbreakable.